Hey everybody, good to see you this afternoon. I took some notes on a subject that I wanted to talk to you about 6 months ago, and I never did. And if I don't talk to you about this pretty soon, I'm going to lose my notes. So what brought this all on, and the reason I wanted to talk to you about it, is I watched a video where there were 3 fenton artists at a convention somewhere, and they were painting with the water-based paints. They were demonstrating, and they told what paints they used, and they were talking about the permanence of the paint. And I thought, I'm going to do some research on this. So I did, and you all can do the same research. I did, and back then I took some notes and I wrote them down. I talked to a fellow back then. His name was Michael. He'd been in the paint industry for over 25 years, and he was a customer service person, and he helped me out tremendously. And the story I told him was that, we paint fenton glass, and, we used a high-fired kiln with high temperatures, but we were looking over options for using a low-fired paint, and we were wanting to know the durability and the permanence of a low-fire paint. We want to know how permanent it was. So he told me, well, we sell permanent paint, but our idea of permanent and your idea of permanent might be different. We have a different terminology for it. He says, what do you consider permanent? And I replied back, I said, I want it to last for generations. I want to be able to hand it down. I want it to look exactly how it looks when I purchase it, 50 years down the road. However, it shouldn't change at all. And he just laughed. And he said, no, our industry standards for permanent is nowhere near that. And he said, guess again. So I knew I was going to have to guess with a lower number. So, I thought 15 years was very low. And I said, well, is it permanent for 15 years? Again, I got the same response. I heard him laugh. And he said, no. And he says, I'm going to tell you what our term permanent means in the paint industry. And he says, it means 3 years. And I'm like, you're kidding me, 3 years? And he said, yes. He says, there is not a paint out there that you can paint on glass with low fire heat that is going to be anywhere near the 15 years you're mentioning. He said, this is a standard in the industry. Pretty much everyone, 3 years is what permanent means. And I was just dumbfounded. And he went on to say, it will last 3 years if you take care of it and you paint it the right way. He said, you just can't paint on glass. The glass has to be primed. It has to have 2 coats of primer so that it will be ready to be painted. Then you have to put 2 coats of your paint on. And then the very most important thing is the clear coat that you put over the paint to protect it. And he said, you have to put that clear coat on every 3 years or the paint will start to deteriorate. I was just dumbfounded. But he said there's some very good products in the market that you can clear coat with, and the clear coating actually has a protectant from UV rays from the sun. So if you're displaying your items in a window or someplace where it's going to get, some sun on it, it protects it from the sun. So that was interesting to me, and he actually sent me some products to test, which I'm still testing. Once I find something that I think that we can use, I will definitely tell you. But right now, I think that most of the clear coating items out there in the market, if you make sure that they have the UV protection, they're probably all going to be about the same. And he said you're still going to have to do it every 3 to 4 years to keep it in its best condition possible. So that was kind of something I didn't want to hear. I was hopeful that it would be a little bit longer than that. So I asked him, I said, does it make any difference if the piece is sanded with the water-based paint or the low-fire paint? And he says, it does if the grit is exactly 220. If you have grit that is higher or lower, it's going to be detrimental. If the holes, where you sand it, if it touches the glass, if the holes are too far apart, he said small pore holes will form, and the paint will actually get down to the glass, and that's worse. And then if it's too smooth, like you have seen us with the dinosaur and the pig, they're sanded, but it's not the correct grit. It's just like being on glossy paint. It makes no difference. So that is the skinny, and I wanted to tell you this before I actually threw this away, because I'm going to have to get rid of it. It keeps floating around my house, and I never have time to seem to get this information out to you. So what I want to stress with this is exactly what he told me in a nutshell, that the best way to get any kind of durability or permanence to a piece, will never be permanent, is to prime. So ask your independent painter or wherever you're getting your pieces from, do you prime your items? Then painted twice, and then clear coated 2 to 3 coats. If it's not even going to last 3 years before you see it deteriorate. Even sunlight will do it. Also, if it's sanded, it may last a little longer, but you're going to have to look at it. If it's sanded where it almost feels like glossy glass, it's not going to do anything. If it's too coarse, again, it's not going to serve any purpose. So the best thing to do is make sure your items are kiln fired with high temperature paint. But a lot of us have the low fired items. We just didn't know. And we want to be able to take care of them so that they last as long as they possibly can last. So out of the sun, out of the damp humidity, and do not wash. And the one thing about this, which is concerning to me, because as an everyday person buying a piece of glass, the first thing you want to do when you get it home, if you buy it at an auction, a garage sale, whatever, you want to wash it. And so I want to get the word out there. And I think a lot of these places, even the gift shops, should get the word out there that these items cannot be washed. You can't wash them. It's water paint. The paint will dissolve, and it doesn't take very long. So if you have these items, no water, just dust, and never put in water at all. I mean, if you're going to use water, I would use like maybe a really damp washcloth to get the dust off, but never in water for any length of time, and it doesn't matter if it's hot or cold. Water is water. Water-based paint dissolves. Okay. All right. Continue the hunt for your fenton, and we'll talk to you soon.